Doomsday 3.
We're in Doomsday 1.
No question in my mind.
He came from one of the toughest areas of Phoenix. Most of his friends were in the force.
Praying for his safety and
on the defense, talking about it. You better get your ass the ball. You better get your ball.
I just gotta say, when it comes to former Dallas,
For sure, and they would have thrown it off because
And this guy gets off you.
Solid from you said that I go to bed every night like G-Man, I promise you that What is up, Cowboys Nation? Your boy Mike Tag here. Just finishing up a couple quick things. Maybe I'll be the last to wish you a Merry Christmas. Hopefully, guys, everyone had a good Christmas. Got everything you wanted. Santa was good to you and been good to our Cowboys, but we will definitely get into that. But before we get rolling, just make sure as you guys are rolling in, hit that thumbs up, hit that like, subscribe, share. My man Kelly K9 will be joining us momentarily. He's heading home now, so we definitely will be getting it going. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to get into the Philly Cowboys game. Could be the battle of the backups for all I know, the way it's turning out. Also talk about CeeDee Lamb. His season's over, but really, I mean, it might have been one of his best seasons. I mean, there is zero doubt that this man is one of the top receivers in the NFL. What he's been able to do with backups. I mean, a lot of people don't, forget he had to go a season with Andy Dalton. He went pretty much this season with Cooper Rush. He did it with Dak Prescott, and he delivers every single time. So definitely one of his better seasons. So we're going to get into that. And then we're going to look at our year in review. 2024, this is probably for Kelly and I our last show of 2024. So we're going to look back at the full year, starting in January, obviously the disappointment with playoffs, and then really some of the stuff going on with the Cowboys in the offseason, but some positive stuff hanging with Cowboys Nation. So definitely appreciate everyone who's hopping in. My man Cuts by Jones, SoCal, Rick, definitely appreciate you guys rolling in. It's kind of that holiday week. I've been off since Friday when we went out to AT&T for the Bucs game. And let me just tell you, that was a great game. It was a lot of fun. And when you go to the games, you don't really get a feel sometimes for how it looked on TV. And I talked about it on Monday, talked about it with some friends who are Bucs fans. I just wanted to reiterate to them and make sure that I was seeing the same thing they saw. And I saw a very physical Dallas Cowboy team, a lot of hard hitting. It's a team that hasn't quit. And I know a lot of people are in the tank and this and that, but I think there's something about winning. I don't know. I like winning. It makes me feel good. Made that flight home, made this week go by really well. So I like winning. So I don't know. I think it does something for you. And I think this team, it sets something up that they can build on going into next year. I think Micah Parsons, probably to me, maybe not statistically, obviously with the injuries, but one of his best seasons, because I think we've watched his leadership. We've watched him get into that role right before our very eyes, grow into it, embrace it, accept it. And this looks like it's Micah Parsons' team. So I think that's a big positive going into 2025. The questions will be, what are the Cowboys going to do? Obviously in free agency, I think there's areas that we're going to get into during the offseason. There'll be plenty of time for that. And then also with the coaches, are you guys, good with McCarthy coming back, Zimmer coming back? They seem to be showing a lot of life, a lot of promises. Like I said, with the team hasn't quit. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. And really more for me is, what are you going to replace them with? If you're going to give me one of them, a step down, then I'll keep with what I got. If you're going to bring in a Vrabel, if you're going to bring in a young coach, something like that, I could accept the change. So we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. But college football, that's going to be another thing we'll talk a little bit on. Last night, if you had you watched little Christmas games, your boy, I hit the Chiefs, won that one. hit the Ravens, won that one. I am doubling down, tripling down. I'm what they call all in on Miami, going to the game Saturday, beating Iowa State, giving up 3. Cam Ward's going to play. Most of their guys are going to play. They want to finish what they started and end the season on a positive note. So I feel good about that game. Now, hopefully I don't lose everything that I won, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, definitely I thought it was, it looked that way live, and it was confirmed by people who watched the game. So it definitely was cool. And one of the other things I was excited about, I got my first rookie card. I got it for Christmas. I got a set of rookie cards, thinking about maybe doing a little giveaway, get these bad boys numbered and signed. I'm going to create my own limited edition Mike Tag rookie card. So I thought that was really cool. Got a great Christmas gift. And so it was a lot of fun. Got to use my car. If you guys saw that, I got me a early Christmas present, got a little remote control car, been taking it out, tuning it up, getting everything right, making sure I still got it from my younger days. So I had some fun with that this week too. So anyway, it's going to be a good time off, and hopefully you guys are getting some time off and spending time with family, because that's the most important thing. Not to be a downer, and we're going to get into a lot of this. I'll cut. I got you covered. You got a card, man. I'm going to make sure it's in a nice hard case. That way it doesn't get damaged. I want it hanging in a very nice spot in that bar of yours. That way hopefully I'll be there forever in spirit. Every time you go in there, you'll see my mug in there. So we'll definitely make that happen. But got bad news, sad news. One of my high school coaches, wrestling coaches, didn't even know it, man. I feel terrible. I saw him at our reunion, but he passed away. And, you hate to hear that. And it was a little while ago. So I'm kind of bummed that I didn't know ahead of time or didn't know when it happened. But that's what happens when you kind of move away. Life gets in front of you. But, it's just kind of a reflection and just, sad moment. He was a great guy. He was really impactful in my life. I've told the story a lot with wrestling. It kind of saved my youth. I wasn't a good student. Wasn't a big troublemaker. I just didn't really crack the books open. Didn't take school seriously, and got into wrestling. And you had to get that GPA. So my first year, I ended up not being eligible because I didn't have the grade point average needed. But I went to practice every day and this and that. And Coach Miller was one guy that always had my back. He always supported me and always did that. So definitely sad to hear. So thoughts and prayers to his family, and hopefully I'll be able to at least touch base with him soon. But anyway, I think my man is back in his cave. Merry Christmas to my man Kelly K9. How are you doing, brother?
What's going on, man? Merry Christmas. I got a belly full of New York strip steak and a bunch of Texas Roadhouse rolls. I'm good.
Yeah. No. Well,
had a birthday dinner this afternoon. Huh?
I don't know about you, but I went to the Carolina game. I went to the Bucks game. So I've been in kind of like vacation mode of not watching myself. And I've been on a diet. I got down pretty good, and get back Monday after Christmas dinner and all that, or Wednesday was Christmas. So, this morning I woke up and checked my weight, and I gained 5 pounds. So now I got to figure out, I got to get back on this diet after the holidays. I mean, that's the only bad thing when you get this time away. You got all the pies and the drinks, and when you're at the game, all the alcohol and everything. It's a recipe not to maintain your diet. So hopefully, I know you've been watching your weight. Hopefully, you haven't slipped too much.
I slipped a little bit for sure, man. Thanksgiving threw me off guard, and then my son, he has his birthday every year, Texas Roadhouse, and this was my girlfriend. It was her brother. It was his birthday, and he had it at Texas. So twice in the past 2 weeks, I've ate at Texas Roadhouse. You know them rolls, yeah. Carl said,
"Oh yeah, no,
man." I think I ate 4 or 5 of them before I got a 16-ounce strip, and I ate about half of that New York strip because I was full on the rolls, the salad, everything, all the stuff I ate before, little appetizers and stuff. So by the time the steak come, man, I was like, which is good though. It's fine because I always have leftover steak the next day. So then the next day I get steak at lunch, and that's always a bonus. You get some bonus steak. So, but yeah, it was good.
I'll cook steak, and I'll cook an extra one, man, and I slice it up. And next day, make a nice steak salad. I use every bit of that. And because steak is one of those meats, I can eat it ice cold right out of the fridge. I don't even need to, warm it up. Sometimes a microwave or something like that ruins it. So I just eat it. I let it try and get to room temperature and just eat it.
So what I'll do is to remedy that, man, is if you have an air fryer, put the steak in the air fryer and like just a couple of minutes, like not even 5 minutes, about 3-4 minutes in that air fryer. And it kind of like sizzles it right back up to where it would be if it came out. But yeah, it's some good stuff. But he said cuts it. I ordered one of these. I don't know if you've seen it, but the TikTok shop has these extendable forks that pull out real long.
No.
And so we had a Christmas Eve dinner at my girlfriend's family's, man, and I busted that fork out and I was taking food off people's plates. It was pretty funny. I took it off her mom and her mom was just laughing. They were rolling. They thought it was funny. Funniest thing ever. And then I went to the other table and had this big old fork, sat down and like snagged some mashed potatoes off her brother's plate. But yeah, you can get the fork. It looks regular, but then you pull it out and it's probably about 2 feet long, man. It's a 2 foot long fork. It's about $5 on the TikTok shop, but it was totally worth it. But yeah.
Now, do you buy stuff on the TikTok shop? Is that
I bought all kinds of stuff on the
it's
TikTok
all legit.
shop.
You don't have to worry about any kind of fraud or anything like
Nope.
that.
I've gotten Christmas shopping stuff for my kid. I got some stuff for Christmas. My daughter wanted this big king size comforter. It's this fluffy comforter that's ever been getting rave reviews. And you can look on there and like people will actually do live reviews on it and tell you what they think of it. So then you almost get a better sense of just reading a review to actually watch it. So I've gotten tons of stuff on the TikTok shop. And so far I've been pleased. I haven't had anything yet that has not lived up to the good reviews. You just got to pay attention to the reviews though. But usually you'll have like, couple thousand different reviews, and if it's close to a 5-star rating, I go ahead and pull the trigger. I've got a bunch of really cool stuff though, so yeah.
No, that's awesome. Well, I was kind of talking about it before you jumped on. Laid back, a little Christmas kind of show, day after Christmas, kind of go through some stuff. We're going to talk Philly, Dallas. I think it lost a lot of its luster. I mean, we'll get into that more, but we want to talk about CeeDee, and then we're going to do kind of a year in review. What I mean more Cowboys Cave Year in review about the Cowboys and maybe some of the stuff. And I made a little slideshow to kind of look back at 2024. So we'll go through that. Guys in the chat, ladies in the chat, it's all going to be laid back. Put any comments, any questions, drop them in the chat. Of course, hit that like, subscribe if you guys are just rolling in. But news today, not a big surprise. I mean, CeeDee Lamb, they're going to shut him down. And I don't know about you. I definitely want to get your opinion. I love the opinion in the chat. I mean, this guy, I don't think you could ask for a better receiver. I don't think you can ask for a better teammate. The toughness he's shown. I mean, he could have easily shut it down weeks and weeks ago. He's been battling through the shoulder injuries. Every time it seemed like he was making a catch, he was wincing, he was struggling. He has gone 1,000 yards with Andy Dalton, Dak Prescott, and Cooper Rush at quarterback predominantly, right? He had over 100 catches this year, almost 1,200 yards. I mean, what's your thoughts on CeeDee? I mean, this is money well spent. I mean, I know a lot of times people get that money and they instantly get hate on him and he's not worth it. I mean, how could anyone say this guy isn't worth every penny that he signed on that contract?
Yeah, first of all, I tweeted last week that I did not agree the fact that he was out there last week. I said, you know what? I said, we're eliminated from the playoffs. CeeDee's banged up. I said, there's no point in putting him out there. Heaven forbid he get hurt. I mean, I know it's football and you play the game, right? But he has an injury. You can see him grimacing in pain, obvious pain every time. It's like, there's no point in getting this dude to have something where he has to have it surgically repaired and then has to miss time next season. He's not ready to roll the beginning of next season, right? So I'm perfectly fine with the decision of shutting him down. I think the reason they had him, though, I believe he went over 1,000 yards last week's game. And I think there was something in the nature of his contract that if he went over 1,000 yards, he does qualify for some type of a bonus. So I think that's probably why he was playing last week, is that they wanted him to get over that, get him.
Might have been over 100 catches because he had 1,200 yards receiving. So he was over 1,000.
Maybe
Maybe it was 100 catches, maybe.
Okay, I didn't know if he already had it. Maybe it was something, but I thought he just barely had over 1,000
No,
yards.
because he had 1194 and he had 100 in that game, so that would have put him at 1094. But he was under 100 catches, and now he has 101 catch. 101
Okay,
catches.
so then maybe that's it. Yeah, 1194 is his total yardage. So yeah, maybe that was it. I don't know, but I mean, I was thinking last week I had tweeted out and said, I figured they would shut him down for the season because I mean, what's the point? You're out of the playoffs at this point. You're not really have anything to play for. You're playing with a backup quarterback, but no, CeeDee Lamb absolutely worth every penny. I thought that this year, I've always thought that he's been good. We've questioned sometimes some of the toughness with CeeDee Lamb. Was it like, is he tough enough? Like, and those questions were answered this season. Yeah. I mean, a guy that got his money and suffering through that kind of injury, that could have been something where he could have just sidelined himself. And it's like, look, man, it hurts too much to go. But he didn't. He was out there every week. He was balling out. And again, he's doing it with Cooper Rush, which, I'm not trying to say that Cooper Rush is a terrible quarterback by any means, but as a backup quarterback, there's a lot of receivers that struggle when the backup comes in. You see it. I mean, being a guy that plays fantasy football, I see it way too often. Starting quarterback goes down, and all of a sudden your number one wide receiver that you're depending on in fantasy, his numbers go to shit because he's not getting the ball. You know what I mean? It's just a very common occurrence. So for CeeDee Lamb to be able to do what he's done with the array of quarterbacks he's done, pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. Yeah. And I think that it's good that we have a receiver like CeeDee Lamb. What I really am looking forward to hopefully this next season is that I'm thinking round 1 or 2 that they draft a wide receiver to pair up with CeeDee Lamb, because I think pairing CeeDee Lamb with another dangerous wide receiver would be absolutely, bonkers, man. So I look forward to that when it comes to next season and CeeDee Lamb, what he can do going forward.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love CeeDee Lamb, and I'm going to segue into something else, and I'm not trying to be controversial and everyone just relax a little bit, but it's just a conversation. I talked about it on Monday, and it was Dak Prescott and Cooper Rush. Now, I'll say it right now. Dak Prescott's clearly a better quarterback. There's no question about it, right? Stats are very similar this year. I mean, they are right down to the middle. Completion percentage, Dak has a slight edge. Attempts, they're right near the same. So it's really a very fair assessment, if you want, of almost identical attempts and this and that. So the thing that I was puzzled with, and I saw Jay Tuck kind of talk about, and I saw some other people tweet about it, and kind of got ribbed for it, and some people got thrown against the wall for it or whatever. But it is something that goes through my mind, and it was a lot when I'm there, right? So I saw the Carolina game, and I see the Bucs game with my eyes, so I'm really kind of focused on the quarterback. And the thing that I don't know is, it seems like when Dak's in, he does a lot of movement. He does a lot of talk, a lot of this, all over the place, audible, this, that, everything, hand signals going all over the place, right down to the line. And it seems like Cooper Rush is taking what the play is, maybe audible once, that's it. No one's moving all over the place. I mean, there's some shift, but he's not going all crazy. Runs the play, quick release, and true West Coast offense. So I guess my question was, do you think that's more of the coordinator putting more on Dak because it's Dak Prescott, or do you think it's Dak wanting to maybe do too much, wanting to prove himself too much and not trusting the calls or trusting the process? I don't know. I'm not a quarterback. I'm not an offensive coordinator. I'm just a fan that's sitting in the stands. But it seems like Cooper Rush is very deliberate, and his time to throw, right, is one of the lowest in the NFL, is getting the ball out quickly. So do you think that there's any correlation, or is there anything that kind of make you get puzzled when you look at the two, or am I crazy? I don't know.
No, I thought that too, but I think that they put the onus on Dak Prescott. He's got way more. His leash is a lot longer than Cooper Rush. I think with Cooper Rush, it's like, here's the play call. This is what we're running. This is what you're doing. Cooper Rush, I don't think, has the freedom within the play calling to make those adjustments and to check out of anything. And also, if you watch the percentage of snaps that Cooper Rush is playing under center versus in shotgun, he's playing under center a lot. Dak Prescott does not. Dak Prescott is the majority of his plays out of the shotgun. Doesn't play a lot under center in terms of the percentage of plays. Somebody had put that out earlier. Had put a week or two ago about the percentage of plays that Dak runs out of shotgun versus Cooper Rush under center. So I think
But
Dak
why doesn't
Prescott's
Dak go under center then? I mean, is it a comfort level for him? I guess is that pretty much what it is?
I don't know if maybe it's just that he's able to see the defense better, the defensive alignments better. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but he can do it though. He can go under center because he did it his rookie year. His rookie year was a lot of it was under center. He did, we did a lot of play action and we did a lot of run. And I think it's harder to run the ball when your quarterback is lined up out of the shotgun and you're running out of the shotgun because you're not able to just hand the ball, your running back come in and hit the hole. Now he's getting it from even further back. You're talking about probably about 5 yards further back. So now he's, 3 to 5 yards back from the line of scrimmage and going into that and getting the ball. I think it's harder. It's easier if a defense collapses for these guys to hold their blocks or to open up a hole that may close rather quickly. I don't really like the scheme at all. And I think that with Dak Prescott, I think they just need to take that away from him. And honestly, the fact that they have to take that away from him and I don't say that Dak Prescott doesn't have a high football IQ because I think he does. But I just don't know that he's a quarterback that is capable of doing that. Like, I trust a guy like Patrick Mahomes being able to have full capabilities of it. I trust a guy like Josh Allen to do and have full capability. Dak, we've seen him do it, though. We saw him do it last year. Last year he really didn't have a problem doing that. This year it just seemed like he struggled and for whatever reason. And I think that a lot of it could be solved with the O-line's playing a lot better right now. The running game is a lot better right now. There's a lot of things I think that kind of factor into it to make people be like, you know what, man, Cooper Rush is playing at the same level, as Dak, or he's, look at the numbers, they're similar. But I think if this team is constructed now was playing like this at the beginning of the season, then I think you would have saw something different from Dak Prescott. But I will say Cooper Rush, man, is playing the role as well as any backup quarterback that in the NFL. Any backup that's come in, Cooper Rush is playing very well. So I don't know. The crazy thing about it is that we're winning these games with Cooper Rush at backup. So it makes you think, could you do that with a lesser quarterback? Did you have to spend $60 million on Dak Prescott?
Let me give Jeff some props because I didn't read this article, but he said he saw an article where they asked Dak about watching Cooper, and he made a comment around how much he appreciated how simple Cooper keeps it and that sometimes he may overthink certain things. So that's kind of you're kind of validating what I was thinking. If that's and I know Jeff, so Jeff's not going to make up any stories. I take that as what Dak Prescott said. That makes you wonder, as he tried to, I don't want to call it hero ball, but, because I hear you and I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm just, we're just having this conversation because I think it's interesting this is the second time that we said the defense played better, elevated their game under Cooper Rush because they did it a few years ago. And now here is it. And I understand they gotten healthier, right? And I think they understand the scheme better. So it could be coincidence. And then the running game got better. And the offensive line has gotten better. Like, you haven't really heard Terrence Steele's name really much in the last few weeks. And he was one that we all want out of here. And I think we still do. But it just makes me like, I'm like, is the offensive flow, is it maybe hurting the flow, or maybe it's just trying to do too much, or trying to live up to, let's just say, a contract. And I hate to use that because I don't really care about the contract, and I hope players don't either. But do you think the pressure of being the highest paid player or this or that gets to some guys and maybe trying to be more than he needs to be?
Well, it could. It definitely could be. But I will say this, though. We also have to think about the fact that there's been a lot of things that have taken place, though, right? So how many times have we seen a team? Because basically this was kind of a totally revamped offensive line. You've got 2 rookies in there. You know what I mean? You that offensive line was totally different than next year. So that kind of like off what Shady says about the O-line gelling. Also, you're talking about Mike Zimmer bringing in a new scheme and the players getting more comfortable within the scheme. And as the year goes on, it seems like they're playing better in that Mike Zimmer scheme than they were in the beginning, where it seemed like there were some missed assignments. There were some things that maybe they might have been struggling with schematically. And so I just think about it like this. I think that if Dak was not injured, I think that as the season progressed, I think we would have saw this offense start to mature. And I think that Dak Prescott absolutely could have this offense playing at a better level. I think that if you had Dak Prescott, I don't think we would be eliminated from the playoffs. I think that a couple of these games that we lost, I think the Cincinnati game for one, I think is a game that we would win. And I think that, I think right now we're, instead of sitting at, what do we got, 7 wins? I think right now, instead of sitting at 7, I think we're probably sitting at like 9 wins and we're in playoff contention, And so I think that a lot of it is just kind of how this team came together. There's a lot of young players on this team that have had to step up due to injuries. And then, so you've looked at inconsistencies within the secondary, whether it's, shuffling out different guys because you've got injuries to Diggs, you've had injuries to Bland, you've had, in the safety position, you've had some injuries to linebacker, and it's just a constant shuffling of guys and names. And I just think that you can't dismiss that. And I think that everybody kind of tends to laser focus in on the quarterback and say, well, now look at how well Cooper Rush is playing. Well, but look at the team, because the team is playing well as a whole. And I think when you come down to it, I think if you ask anybody, I think an average person is going to tell you, I'll absolutely take Dak Prescott over Cooper Rush.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
You look at the throw. You look at some of these throws that Cooper Rush makes, and yes, he's made some nice throws. But then you look at some of the ones he makes where they're behind the receiver, they're just over the top of him. It's a back shoulder fade, and he's throwing it off the shoulder. So you got to kind of look at stuff like that. And I think that it's just overall that the team has really kind of found their groove mid to late in the season, and I think that's kind of what's attributed to a lot of the success we've seen recently within the offense and defense both.
Yeah. No, I agree. And please don't make. I want to clip in something saying I think Cooper Rush is better. It's not even close. Danelle asked a question, and this is something I think you and I can actually probably talk about. Is hey, Mike Tag and Kelly, what are your thoughts of Cooper Beebe potentially being the Zach Martin of the future at right guard? Brock Hoffman, our next starting center. Interesting enough is we had this conversation with someone close to Cooper, and it was confirmed that, he would prefer to play guard, right? He played guard in college, and he would prefer to play guard, I think. So if Zach Martin were to move on, I think there's a high probability that Cooper Beebe would move over to guard. I love Brock Hoffman. I mean, I've said it over and over. I can't say it. I just like he reminds me, I'll say it a million times, of Kevin Gogan, just of his nastiness and tenacity, and just, he'll fight somebody. And I think you need that in an offensive line. It's like, we had Gogan on, and he said, this wasn't a nice man's business. When he got to Dallas in the late 80s, these offensive line were nice people. We brought some nastiness to it, and that's what you got to be. And I think he can bring that. And I think it's no coincidence you see some of these guys coming in there, these young guys, and you see the offensive line playing better. And it's nothing against Zach Martin. I mean, Hall of Famer, first ballot, but he is definitely not the player that he was. Injuries have taken a toll on him, especially this year. But I could definitely see that. What about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, and that was his natural position at Kansas State, was playing the guard position. So, to see him transition back to playing what he was comfortable with. I mean, and obviously he did good. He did well at center this year, but Hoffman, it just seems like that's more kind of just a good fit for him. It's his natural position that it really excels at and plays well. And you look at how the offensive line has played with him at that position, and it's been very well. So I would say that would absolutely be something that would get toyed with and looked at moving forward, should Martin decide to retire. Obviously, if he decides to stay, then that's a whole nother story. But there's been a lot of people thinking that this might very well be his last year. But I mean, I think that BB moving over to guard's not going to be a bad idea.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Transitioning, this is kind of, it's kind of lost its luster. Let's just say, this game. Obviously, Philly's coming off a terrible loss against Washington, just absolutely fell apart. Jaden Daniels looked like the next coming of Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, all rolled up into one in one game. The vaunted number one defense in the NFL got absolutely shredded and embarrassed. Jalen Hurts hasn't practiced yet. He's still in concussion protocol. I don't know if he's going to be able to play. Pickett got hurt in the game, but he said he's ready to play. We're playing with our backup. CeeDee Lamb is out. They moved the game from 4:30 Eastern to 1 o'clock, 12 p.m. Central. So it's kind of sad. Dallas can play spoiler. Dallas can really put a dent in Philly, and I think all of us agree. We love when Philly, loses, and we love to be on that side of beating them. It makes it even sweeter. What's your vibe of this game? There's really just not a whole there's not a whole lot to get excited about when you're looking at it, but it's sad that Philly just played like garbage against the inferior opponent. So it makes you wonder what they're going to do. And their first round matchup in the playoffs against Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay embarrassed them every single time in the playoffs. I mean, they're our Green Bay Packers is, I think, Tampa Bay to Philly. So the way it looks right now, Philly's not even guaranteed the division title. If we beat them, Washington, beats us. I mean, and things happen. Philly could be looking at a wild card. So it's important to them. But what do you make of this game?
Well, the game, has lost a little bit of its luster. Obviously, I don't want to lose. I'd love to win that game and play spoiler, but at the same time, I mean, it's the realist in you is going to look at it and you're going to see that obviously that we're, the injuries they're abound. They're everywhere. You got injuries all over the place. Now you take away your best offensive weapon in CeeDee Lamb. So you're talking about rolling into this game with Brandon Cooks as your number one receiver. That's not
Jalen Tolbert, number two.
Jalen Tolbert, number two. You're going to see Ryan Flournoy probably get, he'll probably be in there at your number three mixed in, maybe with some Jalen Brooks or something. But not an ideal scenario here, for the Dallas Cowboys going into play. A Philly team that does boast a pretty good defense, even though despite what happened with Washington, that week, which, it's funny though, because, I get, I've heard countless, Eagles fans tell me that, with Jalen Hurts, they win that game by 21 or win it by 14. But, Jalen Hurts doesn't play defense. Washington put 400 yards up on them. And I know that Philly got 4 turnovers. There were 5 turnovers in that game, 5 turnovers and still lost. But I mean, Washington,
a team turned the ball over. I don't remember that since Dallas Buffalo when Tony Romo threw 5 interceptions.
Won the game.
Still won. I mean, how embarrassing is it that your team generated 5 turnovers? I don't care if your quarterback's hurt or not. 5 turnovers, you're up 21-7, and you blow it against a Washington team. Maybe I'm bitter because I actually thought Philly was a better team, and I bet on that game. And they cost me. So maybe I'm a little bitter about it. But how embarrassing. And then you have Philly, the head coach, and Zach Ertz, getting into it a little bit on the sideline. I mean, can the Philly coach worry about other things that, that relate to his football team than the outside noise? I mean, it's just constant distraction, but it is disappointing. It's not going to be a premier game because you love Dallas, Philly. I mean, you'd love them both to be healthy, but it's a game that just there's not a lot of juice to it.
Well, I will say that that game is always going to be a rivalry game. So it's going to be one of those games I'm going to watch. And it's going to be one of those games that I've looked forward to. I got a standing bet with another Eagles fan that I have. I'm probably going to end up losing that bet. It's $100 each time they play. I'm already down 100, so I'll probably be down another 100. But I will say that one of the things that that I'm not surprised by. I think a lot of people are, but we talked about it on the show, and I had mentioned it, was that I thought that the Commanders were going to be I was thinking 8 to 9 wins is what I was thinking, and they're actually exceeding those expectations. Now he's got 10 wins, which is crazy.
Dude, they got a rabbit's foot up their ass. Have you seen the way they win some games, though? I mean, it's just
I have, but I mean, you look at what Dan Quinn and just the energy that he's brought into that team. That team plays with an energy when you watch.
No, they do. But like the Saints went for 2. The Saints go for 2. They win that game. They blew the lead against the Saints, and the Saints go for 2 in the end. I think if it went in overtime, Saints end up beating them because they had momentum. But they went for 2, which I understand. They're bad. They get the Hail Mary against the Bears. They get the Eagles that their defense just collapsed. I mean, just absolutely collapsed. They're up 21-7. Just an absolute choke job by their defense. I mean, you want to talk – I mean, I'm not hating on the Commanders, but, man, anything that can go right goes right for them this year.
Yeah.
It's just one of those years.
They've definitely had, and that's what it takes, obviously, sometimes a little bit of luck. But and when I watch that team, though, and obviously you can look and see what a rookie can come in and have a outstanding season. Look no further than C.J. Stroud, then come in a sophomore season and just lay a complete egg.
Oh,
but
God.
I would say when you look at it, just from right now, because that's all we can base it off is what we've seen this year. I mean, Washington got themselves a franchise quarterback in Jaden Daniels.
He's tough. He's tough.
The dude looks like the real deal, man. I mean, he's calm, cool under pressure. Like, I mean, it's definitely going to make the NFC East a lot more interesting moving forward. If you have a team like the Commanders that are going to be competitive like they are, as they continue to try to get better with Quinn as their coach. And then you've got the Eagles who are one of the better teams in the league this year. And then you're going to have the Cowboys to make that NFC East a whole lot more.
Hey, look no further than the Giants might be getting Cam Ward. I mean,
that's what I was going to say. And then you got the Giants next year that are going to have the number 1 overall pick. Now, I don't know if they'll get Cam Ward or if they'll get Sanders, because I've been hearing that Sanders thinks that he's got the number 1 pick locked up. I don't know if you saw that. There was a video dropped the other day, and it was those two talking, the two Sanders brothers, and he says, what if I forgot what he said. I think Vegas. He said, well, what if Vegas trades up to get you? And he said, well, you don't get no higher than number 1. So I think Shedeur is pretty confident that he's going to be the number 1 pick, and I think Dion would probably like to see him in New York, just because, I mean, in terms of a big media spotlight, big, New York, you don't get no bigger than that. So, but
hey,
it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting.
It is. Do you think, I talked about it Monday, do you think college football made a mistake in when you have obviously the playoffs, but when you have these other bowl games, instead of aligning to your conference versus standard conference, do you think they missed a really good opportunity to have Colorado, Miami, because Shedeur is playing in the bowl, Cam is playing in the bowl? I mean, do you think that would have been – you would have had the 2 top quarterbacks in college football, the 2 guys that have kind of been aligned at the hip, who's going to be the number 1? And I think they really missed an opportunity. I mean, I'm not being biased because I'm a Miami fan. I just love football, and I think they missed an opportunity of showcasing those 2 quarterbacks head up in a bowl game.
Yeah, no, that definitely would have been a good bowl game to see. I mean, it's funny kind of how they select bowls and teams that are in there and stuff, because I mean, I pretty much every time we get the Tech is in a bowl game and they talk about who they're going to play, it's like I'm always like, ooh, I want to play that. I'd like to play that team. I think that'd be a fun matchup, exciting, and it's always the opposite of whatever I'm thinking on. So I don't know what the hell the bowl committee's thinking, but yeah, that would have been good to see the 2 guys that are battling it out for the number 1 overall pick in the draft to go head to head with each other. You know what I mean, on the field. So yeah, that absolutely I think would have been an exciting, but yeah, I mean, when you think about it, either way, whether it's Ward or whether it's Sanders, there's going to be a new QB in New York next year, and they're going to have, a bevy of, high round draft picks that they're going to be adding talent to their team too. Quite possibly a new head coach in New York. I don't know if I don't know if they'll keep Dayball.
Hey, there's no way.
I figure they're going to fire him, because my thing is if you're getting a top tier pick like that, and I mean, what did he do to deserve to keep his job? Absolutely nothing. He got you the number 1 draft pick. So you move on from him. You bring a coach in that you think can develop this young quarterback, with an offensive coordinator that, kind of like how they did with Dan Quinn. They brought in a guy that was a younger, Cliff Kingsbury, known as a guy that can kind of develop some of these younger quarterbacks, known for that anyway. So I think they'll do the same thing. So NFC East is going to be very interesting for several years because you've got Dak, he's your veteran guy, and then you've got the young guys. You've got Jalen Hurts is young, and you Jaden Daniels, and then you'll have Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders in the NFC East. So it's going to be very interesting to kind of see how this NFC East shapes up over the next few years. But in terms of the Dallas and Philly game, I mean, obviously, I think that. Yeah, I would love to play spoiler, and I would love to beat Philly. And especially, I mean, listen, I'm going to just say this. I'm always going to talk shit if we win. But if we win and it's with Cooper Rush, and I know they may have their backup quarterback, but if we don't have CeeDee Lamb and it's not CeeDee Lamb and they're beating him with Brandon Cooks as our number one wide receiver, yeah, I mean, trust me, I'm gonna be bumping some gums over that if we win that. I will be talking some shit. So
make no mistake.
I hope we get the win, but I think Philadelphia is probably going to be pretty pissed. At getting embarrassed by Washington last week. So I think they come out. I don't think they're going to want to get embarrassed here and slip up and lose another one. So I think it's an uphill climb for the Cowboys to try to.
No, I think they're just going to be. They're overmatched, and the secondary. The Eagles got a good young secondary. It's overmatched without CeeDee.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm hoping they win. I want them to win. It'd be great, but I don't really see it happening on the road. I think the defense is going to play well. I don't think Philly's going to just destroy them. I think it'll be an ugly game, but I just think a lot depends on Hurts, right? If Hurts plays, I think they probably win that maybe a little bit more easily. But if Pickett's playing, all bets are off to me. It's going to be a flip of a coin because he looked like shit.
And I think that with this Dallas pass rush right now, I saw a graphic today that since Micah Parsons has come back, that the Dallas Cowboys actually lead the league in turnovers and quarterback sacks. So their defense has really gotten after the quarterback and really made it tough for opposing offenses to move the ball, and we're also getting turnovers, which all are recipes for ingredients for a winning recipe. And so you've seen the Cowboys be able to take advantage of these things and stuff, and then throw in the fact that Cooper Rush is feeling a lot more comfortable than the first time. The first time that we played Philly, that was his first game. He passed for 45 yards in that game, and I think he threw 2 interceptions, maybe 3, I can't remember, but it was a shit game for Cooper Rush. But that was his first game after Dak got injured, right? So now he's feeling, he's got games under his belt. He's feeling a lot more comfortable within this offense. Obviously he's not going to have CeeDee, so I'll be curious who he leans on and who his safety blanket will be. This would be a game for me that I would like to see Jake Ferguson step up and do some things. I tweeted that Jake Ferguson had been a disappointment this season. And it was funny because I had a bunch of salty Cowboys fans that really love Ferguson. This Ferguson fan. But I said, listen, I like Ferguson. I'm not trying to badmouth him. I'm not saying anything about him. I said, but what I'm telling you is he has been a disappointment. If you told me going into this year, if you told any Cowboys fan that Luke Schoonmaker would have 4 touchdowns and Jake Ferguson would have 0 with 3 games left to go, you'd get looked at and probably laughed right out of the damn room. But Jake Ferguson's got 0 touchdowns on the year, and Luke Schoonmaker's got 4. So he has had a very disappointing season, no matter how you look at it. And I don't, people will talk about the quarterback, that it's, Cooper Rush this or that, or they're not scheming him, whatever. He's had some opportunities, and he's not capitalized on them. And he's been disappointing.
I hold my Canes a little responsible. Them damn Cavender girls, man. I did that. The one he's dating has got his mind every which way, but focused at the task at hand. I don't blame him.
The distractions can be a son of a bitch.
But I mean, and it's fair. I mean, there's nothing wrong with I still rock my Ferguson jersey. I think the ceiling's high. It's just I had high expectations. I expected him to be top 2-3 tight end in the year. I expected a lot more. And it just didn't happen for whatever reason. But like we talked about earlier, CeeDee Lamb finds a way to get it done. And I understand CeeDee Lamb's extreme, but he's had all these backup quarterbacks he's dealt with, and he still produces week in and week out. So anyway, not a whole lot with the Eagles. We could still talk about it if you got questions, but really what I wanted to maybe, touch base and kind of talk on, it's a year review, right? Kelly and I, we've been doing the show for a couple years now. This will probably be our last show of 2024 because it'll be 2025 by our next show. So I think it's always good to look back just at the year of the Cowboys Cave, the year of the Cowboys. So I put a little slideshow in, and we'll get that up. And then Kelly and I we want to talk to you guys about it too, is just give us maybe we'll share some stories, share some thoughts, share some memories of what's been doing. So let me clean this up. So we got a clear spot here, and then we'll get this up. And there we go. We're rocking. It started out with the Cowboys Cave tailgate party, but it really started out in January, Kelly, and so much disappointment in the playoffs with the Packers. This has not been a 2024 that the Cowboys, fans would love to remember, and we kind of want to put it past us. We want to really look towards 2025, but we had a great time, obviously, with our tailgate party, hanging with Cowboys Nation. The channel has grown. Poor Kelly with the bag over his head. The channel has grown, and really thanks to all you guys. So it's been a fun year hanging with Cowboys Nation, but the start of the season, losing Dak Prescott, hopes of nothing in the offseason after hearing Jerry go all in. I mean, how do you sum up the 2024 season, not only for the Cave, but for the Dallas Cowboys and Cowboys Nation and all of that stuff?
It's been a year that kind of started out with a bang. That was the Baltimore game. The tailgate, I think, was the high point of the season for me. And then after that, everything just kind of went downhill. Obviously, there's lots of positives that you can pick out from it. I thought that last week, Cuts having Kimmy be able to go to her first game and get a win. I thought that was really cool. Seeing you and the boys chopping it up in the Sweden Carolina right there, that was cool. But it's been a disappointing year. No matter how you look at it, it's been a disappointing year just because, there's been some points that obviously you look back to and be like, you know what, this was a fun time, or this was, I made a good memory here and there, but it's just been very demoralizing as a whole to watch this Cowboys team that we had expectations of. We had worries going into the season about what this team was going to be. I think, both of us, I had this team at 10 wins. I think you had them at, 12? 11 or 12. So, yeah. I mean, we both had them winning a couple games less than they had won previously. And I mean, they're not even going to really come close to it. I mean, they might end up with 8, but it's just, it's one of those things where you expected a little bit more and kind of had some, coming off the loss in Green Bay, you just expected the front office to be hungry to want to wash the taste of that embarrassment out of their mouth and be like, let's get this behind us. We know we've got a talented team because we went undefeated at home all year, but we got it blown out and embarrassed at home. So you know what? We're going to attack free agency. We're going to be aggressive with who we add to this team. We're going to make some additions, couple key pieces here and there to improve the roster on areas of weakness. That's what we kind of thought and expected us to do. We didn't do it. Then we had our worries about it. We're like, God, we really didn't do anything here. And those worries came to fruition. And then the injury bug hit the Cowboys.
Injuries were just
– it's one of those years where, and it happens. You see teams happen where they just get decimated with injuries. And that's just – it's too much to overcome. If it's one injury here or there, if it's a couple players, you can get over – if it was a CeeDee Lamb missing like 3 games throughout the season and then he came back, injuries happen and teams can make it through. But when you don't have the depth, which we don't, and we talked about it, the depth was an issue. When you don't have the depth there, and the depth that you do have is a lot of really young guys, you're going to go through some growing pains, and you're going to see some bad things. But I say the good things, if you're looking for the silver lining with the Cowboys this year, is that you did see some youth and some guys that started to make some improvements. A guy like Luke Schoonmaker, we were just talking about tight end. Luke Schoonmaker's starting to kind of, come along here and kind of find himself a little bit. He's looked like a guy that you might be able to do some things with. I don't know that he'll be tight end one, but obviously, you want to have two decent tight ends pass catching, and he's shown the ability to do that. Jordan Lewis, a guy that has that real dog mentality that's really kind of set the tone along this defense. You've got some of these young guys, man, that are flying around, some hard hitters. Maurice Luafau, our rookie, he's been able to grow up some, since Overshone's come out. You see him making some plays and showing some signs that he's going to be a linebacker that'll be good within this, in this, new redesign back, because it's going to be redesigned next year. There's going to be different guys. I don't think you're going to get Kendricks. I don't think he'll be back next year. I think we signed him a 1-year deal. But it'll just be interesting. But you've got some youth guys. There's been some youth that gives you some bright spots that you could be, optimistic for moving forward. So good and bad, but more bad than good in this season, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, it's been I think to me, it's just the injuries. And, you look at where they end up. They can end up 9-8. They can end up 8-9. They can end up 7-10, I guess, depending on, what happens in the last few games. And you look at the injury to the quarterback, obviously injury to Parsons, injury to Tank. I mean, all pro guys, injury to Diggs. I mean, that's really, this was, you and I said it, is they didn't do much in free agency. They weren't going to be a Super Bowl team, but this was a team that should have easily won 11 games. But, they're going to fall a little short. But when you have season-ending injuries and injuries all over, to me, that's it. But the offseason, I had to sit and watch Derrick Henry on Christmas night run all over Houston again, and when you see that, it's just like a gut punch every single time it happens, because you just, I hear my brother saying, man, boy, what you guys would look like with him. Dak probably wouldn't even been hurt. The team, just those little things that could have been done in the offseason, that's what's so frustrating with the ownership and the whole fire Jerry movement and this and that, just to get the attention and the spotlight on them. It kind of softened up, because you see this team not quit, battle. They start winning some games. And the crazy thing is they beat Pittsburgh, beat Washington, they beat the Bucks. Those are 3 playoff teams, more than likely, unless something crazy happens to one of those teams. They, it was before they didn't beat nobody. They said, well, with the backups and obviously outside Pittsburgh, with that one, they beat playoff teams. So this team had the capabilities to do something, but they weren't given enough. The coaching staff wasn't given enough. Some of the players weren't given enough help. So to me, that's the disappointing side. The positive side, I would say, is always going to be Cowboys Nation. It's going to be, hey, we met Greg. Greg's part of the Cowboys Cave family. He's been new to the, absolutely love his energy, positivity, and all of that kind of stuff. And so thankfully for that, we've gotten, we set a goal for over 3,000 subscribers. We reached that. Hopefully next season, our next goal will be 5,000. So with the help of the Cowboys Cave family and Cowboys Nation, we'll reach that goal. The interviews, you look back to the people that we got to meet, the characters, and Tony Hill and Kevin Gogan and Bob Lilly and all these guys that we've met over the last year. So, just absolutely great. Hopefully we'll be able to do that more in the off season. We're going to get into some draft stuff. So, the family I love. Now, the Cowboys, organization, they drive me nuts. I was talking to a guy, outside while I was playing with my little remote control car. And he's like, man, you're a Cowboys fan. And, we started talking, because, man, you have a rough year. And it's been a rough year. But hopefully, like you said, Schoonmaker, Mozzie Smith. Zimmer said by the end of this year, these defensive tackles, I assure you, will be playing better. That was after, I think, the Ravens or the Saints, whatever game that debacle was. Mozzie's been respectable, playing well. Osa probably played himself out of Dallas, because I don't know if they're going to be able to re-sign him. But you see that. So I think hopefully Jerry sees it and they do something to give this team the opportunity to really make a push next year. It remains to be seen. But, we're going to be here for the ride. Unfortunately or fortunately, however you put it, man, we're Dallas Cowboys. I know you, Kelly, get upset, rightfully so, and you're very passionate about it and you're very vocal about it. But unlike you, I don't have tattoos, so I can run and hide it. You can't hide from the Dallas Cowboys. You got it right on your arm. I mean, you got to take it. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, it's funny though. Last couple weeks, I've been wearing my gear a little bit prouder. You know what I mean? Because we've actually showed some, we've shown some pride, and that's the main thing for me was that I not having this team lay down and die. You know what I mean? Because that's just embarrassing when a team quits.
Yes.
And this team has had every excuse in the book that they could have quit. And I don't think anybody would have really blamed them, outside of the organization. Maybe nobody would have blamed them. But I think for us fans, that would have been difficult to watch. You know what I mean? To watch your team just quit and get rolled over and be an easy out. I don't think anybody right now down the stretch, any of these teams, these last 3 games, are going to be looking at the Cowboys thinking this is an easy win. I really don't. That because the way that the Cowboys are playing right now, they've shown that they can make a game tough on you. Even if you're one of the better teams, like Philly is one of the better teams, I still think Dallas is going to make this game tough. I don't think Dallas is going to roll over and just, that first game we played, it was 34-6. I don't foresee this being the similar deal. I feel this being a lot closer of a game. Obviously they have Pickett, but even if they had Hurts, even if Hurts plays, I still seeing it being a closer game. I've seen it maybe being about a touchdown, touchdown game probably, that close. So, and that's the main thing there. But it's fun though because I will say that since the Cowboys have kind of taken this direction, I've watched a little bit more football in terms of some of these other teams and kind of paid attention to watch and see like, all right, who is the biggest threat to the Chiefs? You know what I mean? Because right now I think it's the Chiefs, no matter what anybody says. Yeah. Everybody talks about, well, they're lucky and then blah, 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 whatever. But here's the thing. They're getting healthy at the right time, man. They got Pacheco back. They got Hollywood Brown back. He played his first game this week. I mean, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy is coming on. He is finding his groove. They're figuring out how to use him. And then, with Hopkins, I mean, they don't have bad offensive weapons. I mean, and they're starting to kind of hit it at the right time. And you saw what they did with the, Steelers and kind of got an easy win with them. But, watching the NFC North has been crazy, man. I mean, if you would have told me that Sam Darnold was going to be 12-2,
I know.
I mean, with the Minnesota, I'd have called you crazy. I mean, I keep waiting for Minnesota to fall off, and then for Sam Darnold to be Sam Darnold, but he's not. They got him playing well within that system, and you're sitting there now. You've got basically, Detroit and Minnesota kind of duking it out for that number 1 seed there, and they play each other coming down the stretch. I mean, you got Minnesota that plays back-to-back games. They get play Green Bay, and then they play Detroit, and Green Bay just rolled in and just bitch slapped the Saints. And I mean, now they got 11 wins. So, I mean, now you've got Green Bay rolling, and that whole NFC North just looks, they look pretty stacked. So,
no, it's going to be interesting. Did you see that stat on the Chiefs? Their offense has not scored 30 points all year or more.
Yeah.
And they showed this is what's interesting. It really hits your point and what I wanted to really emphasize. There's only 4 teams in the NFL that have not scored at least 30 points in a game. The Chiefs, the Giants, I want to say it's the Raiders, and some other shitty team. It's like the 3 worst teams in the Chiefs, but the Chiefs are 14-1. It goes to what you say about Mahomes and really about coaching. They don't make mistakes. They don't kill themselves. They play fundamentally sound football. Yeah. And it's not about all the big stats. And that's why it's almost like, when you go back to the Cowboys, with Aikman, he didn't have the big enough stats. He wasn't a great quarterback. And if you look at Mahomes, he's not putting up these unbelievable numbers this year, but they're continuing to win. And I think he's playing his best football. And nobody will convince me the Chiefs. I will not take any other team but the Chiefs until I see them lose in the playoffs. Then I'll be maybe a believer, but I don't even know if I still believe it. I think the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. They're fundamentally sound. They don't kill themselves like Dallas kills themselves with penalties sometimes at stupid times and touching the ball when they don't need to be. And you think about that Bengals game. What would this last 2 weeks look like had they won that game? They'd be fighting for a playoff spot. I mean, will they do anything in playoffs? No, but hey, as you're fighting for a playoff, but Dallas seems to make those mistakes, and other teams do the same. Where the Chiefs, they can score under 30 points a game, not even get over 30, and they continue to win because they don't make mistakes. It's just well coached. They got a great, obviously, quarterback, Mahomes. So it's going to be fun to watch the playoffs. I'm looking at those matchups, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see if someone could beat Detroit. Or is Detroit and Kansas City going to be on a collision course? Could the Bills and Josh Allen get over the hump and finally beat Mahomes in the playoffs? I don't know. It's at Arrowhead now, so I think they're in trouble.
So in the NFC, man, honestly, the team that I would most like to see to be there, and I know Detroit is but Minnesota has I root for Minnesota. I'm not saying I've always liked Minnesota, but I remember back in the days when Randy Moss was on that team, I used to love watching them and stuff. So, I mean, right now, if I had to pick a team from the NFC to kind of ride with, I think it'd be Minnesota. I don't think they get enough talk. And it's weird because they've been so good and so consistent all year. And you just keep waiting for them to lose. You're like, okay, well, they're playing a legit opponent this weekend. So they're probably going to lose this. And then they win. They just keep going out and they keep winning. And, so I don't know, man. I think it'd be interesting to watch that. But I'm with you, man. I think the Chiefs. I don't see anybody beating the Chiefs. I just think that they're the most consistent. I think they got the best coaching. I think they got the best. Their defense is really good. Their offense is just is starting to really kind of come around now. And with those wide receivers that they got, getting some guys back. So
yeah,
I don't know,
because you think about it. If you do a collision course, and let me just answer one quick question from Garland. He asked about Dak restructures. He can restructure his contract. Dallas Cowboys with a couple of restructures can clear $100 million, clear a ton of money in the cap. So
for sure.
It's all about whether Jerry and Steven want to do it. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But just to touch on the AFC, I think it's very interesting because the Bills and Ravens, if everything works out seeding-wise, again, if everything works out the way it's going to be, the Chiefs would likely are going to end up playing the Texans. If all the higher seeds win, it would be the Texans in the divisional, and then you've got the Bills and the Ravens are going to have to battle out. Now, that's not – I mean, everyone's anointing the Bills going – Don't sleep on the Ravens by any stretch. That's going to be interesting. And then the Chiefs are going to play the winner of that game in Kansas City. So I think it's going to be very difficult for someone to beat Kansas City in Kansas City. The NFC, to your point, is you look at these teams from 1 to 7. Don't sleep on the Green Bay Packers either. I mean, don't sleep on the Green Bay Packers. No. They're playing good football. It's wide open. Aside from, I mean, the only thing that I would guarantee is if the Bucs in Philly are in the first round, the Bucs are going to annihilate them. It's over. So Philly will be done. They'll be out. So then it's really going to come down to Detroit. It'll come down to Minnesota. The Rams are a team. If Rams get in, which right now they're another team I'd be very careful of. So the NFC is wide open. NFC.
I think so too. I don't really know that there's one team that I look to in the NFC where I'm like, yeah, that's the team. That's the team, and that's it. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to beat this team. I think the NFC is definitely wide open. I mean, Green Bay has been kind of my dark horse team for the majority of the year, just because I felt like they're definitely getting better. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're getting better, and that quarterback, that defense, they got that running back, Jacobs, who's playing really well, probably some of the best ball of his career, which is funny. He was another free agent that the Dallas Cowboys could have grabbed, but they decided not to. So, just watching these teams and going forward in the playoffs, it'll be interesting to see kind of how it shakes out, though. But long as somebody told me, they said I don't have a team in the playoffs, and I said, well, that's not true because whoever plays against Philly is my team. So
you know what I felt bad for, and we're gonna move on from Philly because they're just too easy to make fun of, the whole city. They had this. I don't know if you ever sometimes on Facebook or Twitter is things show up. So there's this little display thing, and it shows the champions. Like it has like the team, and it has the trophy or the rings of each thing. So you have your city. So if you had Dallas, you'd have 5 rings for the Cowboys. You get a ring for the Rangers. I think the Stars got a ring, and so you go down the line. And they had Philly, and you had the 76ers had a couple. The Flyers had a few. The Phillies had a couple. And then the poor little Eagles had that one little Lombardi sitting there. How embarrassing. I mean, I just thought it was funny. It was just something that little things like that make me laugh, Kelly. I don't know about you.
Hey, well, I always, you know me, I'm always laughing at him. So, but I was gonna ask you, because last year, there was a little bit of controversy. So I want to talk about this real quick, because there was some controversy. A lot of people thought Dak Prescott should have got MVP of the league last year, and I thought he played like the MVP. When you looked at the numbers, they were career best numbers for him across the board. But the media, Lamar Jackson's kind of the darling of them or whatever. He won it. And he wasn't really number one in a lot of those categories. Now, this year, right now, Lamar Jackson, I think I wouldn't be mad if they gave it to him again. I saw this tweet today, and I looked at it, and I brought it up, and the tweet that he had, he's going to end up with over 5,000 yards this season. He's already
which is crazy for him.
He's 48.07, which is a career best. So anytime a quarterback, in my opinion, goes over 5,000 yards, you're going to be in the MVP conversation. He's got 43 touchdowns, also a career best. He only has 4 interceptions on the year, also a career best. Completion percentage, 67.9, career best. Passer rating, 121.6, which is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I understand that he's got Derrick Henry there, that.
Yeah, but he's putting up those yards with Derrick Henry, all those yards Derrick Henry has too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he's doing that with a running back, which is one of those things where I can say that the running back position to me cannot be overstated with how great it made. Because in my opinion, I don't think Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in the league. I don't think he's the best. No. But when we're talking about most valuable to his team and what they've been doing right now, I think that it's Lamar Jackson, because what he's been able to do, because with a stud running back, he's been able to elevate his game. It's the same way with Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts is by far being from an MVP season, but Jalen Hurts even looks better because of Saquon Barkley, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
You get a good running back, it can make your quarterback look that much better, because the defenses cannot just stack the box now. They are trying to load the box, which opens up your wide receivers and makes it easier for your guy to be throwing to one-on-one coverage versus them just being able to drop back. Because with the Cowboys, nobody's really scared of the run with the Cowboys, so it makes it harder to pass. You're throwing into tighter windows because you've got guys, they can double up a guy like CeeDee, show more attention to these guys. So it's just one of those things. But when I look at it this year, I don't know what your opinion on the MVP is, but I absolutely would not be upset if they gave Lamar the MVP. I think he's going to go over 5,000 yards. I think that's crazy. And, only having 4 interceptions. I know Josh Allen hasn't thrown a lot of picks either, but I don't know, man. I think it'd be kind of hard.
His running ability and Josh Allen's. I think what's going to happen, I think Lamar Jackson this year is the Dak Prescott of last year. I think Dak Prescott had a better season than Lamar Jackson, but Lamar Jackson was the one that everyone was focusing on all year. And I think Josh Allen's the guy that everyone's focusing on this year. And I'll be honest with you, until you said those stats and until I saw those stats, I didn't think Lamar Jackson was having that good of a year, because it's not really talked about, right? Everyone's focused on Josh Allen. That's all you hear. Josh Allen. That's all you hear. And it was a lot last year. It was the same, where everything was Lamar. And like, you're looking back, say, well, shoot, Dak Prescott is beating them in every offensive category as a quarterback. He's beating them in everything. Yeah. And not often does the NFL leader in touchdowns not get MVP or something like that. So I think it's interesting, but I think he's going to fall a little short. But I think he's having a better year because of everything that you said. I mean, nobody looks at Lamar Jackson as a pocket passer, as a quarterback who could throw the ball, and he's putting up huge numbers passing, and he's still running the ball, and he still has Derrick Henry running the ball. So their offense is just unbelievable, but I think Josh Allen will end up getting it. But I think it's going to come down to these last 2 games. If Josh Allen slips up, it's almost like the Heisman race. I think that's what it's coming down to. Josh Allen slips up and Lamar looks good again, I think you're seeing the odds makers. It's getting closer and closer and closer. So it's going to be fun, and it'll be interesting. One thing I wanted to ask you before we wrap up, we're going to get into the draft as it gets going. My son and I had a conversation at dinner, and we're talking about running back. And do you think the Cowboys are feeling a little bit easier with the running back? With Rico Dowdle's averaging 4.8 yards a carry. He's going to get over 1,000 yards, yada, yada, yada. And really just in a short period of time because he was only the main starter for half the season. And then obviously you have Genty, coming out for Boise State. I say if he's there, I'm not drafting him. I think, and I asked him about your guy at Texas Tech, and he said I would take him. I would take a kid from North Carolina. I think there's another kid that's talked about. How mad if the Cowboys pass up on him in the first round, if he fell to them, how mad are you going to be if they got one of those other running backs later? Do you think Genty's just too special, or do you think, I'm not, I don't think there's a big gap difference between him and another guy? I mean, what's your thoughts on the running back position?
Yeah, I don't, because to me, I got to look at the whole of Genty's. I think he's going to be a good running back, but my whole thing is I don't think he's this generational guy that people keep talking about. They keep hyping him up like he's a can't miss prospect, and I don't believe that, because you can't discount the fact that he has played against some pretty weak competition. You can't discount the fact that they feed him the ball like a hungry newborn baby. You know what I mean? Like they wanted Genty to have this Heisman push, and they gave him the ball a ton of times. He had a ton of carries. So, when I look at a guy, personally, that I know you're talking about from Carolina. I think it's Mario Hampton. I think is the guy's name from North Carolina. He'd be a good guy. Good running back. There's a lot of this running back class. It's deep, man, and it's very deep. It's deep through several rounds. Obviously, I keep pushing for my guy Taj Brooks because he's Texas Tech and I got to watch him a lot. But I'd be, if they grabbed Brooks and grabbed him in the third round, or even if they had to trade up a few picks to get him in the fourth round, because he's kind of projected in that third to fourth round range. But dude, he's a guy that's, he's a 230-pound back. He's a little bowling ball, man. He runs through tackles. He's got acceleration, great cut vision, like all that stuff. I just don't see that big of a difference from Genty in the first round to grabbing a guy like Taj Brooks, or grabbing a guy like, the North Carolina guy in the second round, possibly, or some of the guys that they've talked about, maybe even into the third rounds. Like, I don't think that there's going to be that big of a difference. And when you look at the, a lot of the running backs in the league, we talked about it, I think not that long ago, was that there's, out of the top 10 NFL, the top 10 rushers in the NFL right now, there's only 4 of them that were drafted in the first round. The rest of those guys are second to fourth round. One of them even, I think, is a 5th round guy. So you can get good running backs in the later rounds. I think where we need to hit, where we can't afford, in my opinion, if we're not going to go out and sign a free agent and do it free agency, but I don't think we will. I don't think we'll spend the money there. I think it needs to be wide receiver. I think you need to go with the wide receiver position. And I think that's where they need to go in the first round, in my opinion, because I think you need to get a stud wide receiver to pair up with CeeDee Lamb, make life easier on Dak Prescott, make life easier for CeeDee Lamb, and just kind of elevate this offense to another level. Because if you can do that and hit on a running back in, the 2nd through 4th round range, and add a running back to it, I think that they can afford to bring Dowdle back. I think that Dowdle would be affordable. I think you could bring Rico back, draft a running back. You got a 1-2 punch there. Hopefully, you hit on your rookie running back, and he's the guy you kind of lean on, with Rico being your stud, or you mix them up, however you want to do that. But me, I think it's wide receiver is where I'm trying to go in the first round.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. And I think from a financial point, wide receivers are more developed now than ever coming out of the draft. How many of them are just studs coming out? If you hit on your wide receiver, you got them locked in for 5 years. You just re-signed CeeDee for 5 years. So you're going to have where you can have 2 1s, if you want to call it that, however way you want to put it, where you can afford it. you can't go out and sign Higgins. You're not going to go out and sign one of these other guys because you're going to pay a huge premium. The opportunity is now, because when their contract's up, I mean, realistically, that's when CeeDee's probably going to be on his way out. I mean, Father Time catches up with receivers faster than
exactly.
almost as fast as running backs, not as fast as running back. Next. I mean, the legs are everything to them, right? So I think it's a perfect year for them to get a receiver. They need one desperately. And you can get a good one, and a really good one in the first round. So I'm 100% in agreement. I want them to get a receiver. The only part I will say is, and I'm sure you agree 100%, if they don't get a damn running back in this draft, I'll be pissed. Now, my son and I had this argument. Would you rather them have Najee Harris, who's been a free agent, talked about, or draft a running back? What would your preference be?
I mean, Najee's not bad, but I'd rather them draft one. I just feel like that you can do better if you draft a running, because one, I think that you don't have to allocate resources. If you can get a running back and hit, you don't have to allocate that money. If you can hit on both of those positions and get starters, starting wide receiver, starting running back, then that means that you can invest your money into positions like maybe adding a valuable piece on the defensive line, the interior defensive line, whether that be in re-sign Osa or Golson or, some of these guys that are going to be free agents, right? Invest some money into signing them and maybe bringing in another piece. This solidifies that, right? Like a guy that's going to be a stud, or maybe even getting somebody on the offensive line, like a guy that can be a tackle that you can be like, all right, this guy could be our left tackle, or he could be a right tackle to take care of this Terrence Steele problem that we've got. Solidify the offensive line and defensive line, and use that money in free agency to solidify your trenches on guys that are proven, that are going to fit within your scheme, and that are going to elevate those two groups, the offensive line, defensive line. And then you go through the draft, and that's where you build your skill position players, because then you're not having to pay them, because typically your skill position players are what you're going to be paying the most money to anyway. So a wide receiver like T. Higgins, you're going to be spending some good money to get a guy like that and bring him in. Whereas if you can hit on him in the draft, you can allocate those resources to somebody that may be a little bit cheaper, but could have a bigger impact across the offensive line or the defensive line. Because that's, I think, where the Cowboys are still the weakest, in my opinion, is across that offensive line and defensive line. And just because of a few key positions, it wouldn't even really take anything. And I think honestly, right tackle, I think, needs to be done. And whether that's switching Guyton out to right tackle and we draft a left tackle or sign a left tackle, or they decide, you know what, we're going to keep Guyton at left tackle, we're going to replace Steele, and let's sign ourselves a right tackle. Whatever they do, I just think they need to spend that money on the offensive and defensive line, in my opinion.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think I would free agency on the offensive line. I would get a veteran guy that can help, because you're going to have a young group, right? You're going to have it'd be really nice to get a good veteran guy. And to your point, couldn't agree more. You're going to pay a premium for the cornerback, for the pass rusher, for the wide receiver. Obviously quarterback goes without saying. You can get value at linebacker. You can get value with defensive tackles. You can get value with safeties. You get value with running back in free agency. So to your point, get your cornerback, get your wide receivers, try and nail those in the draft, your pass rushers, because you can lock them into rookie deals. I mean, that's how these other teams do it. I mean, that's how they're able to re-sign their guys for high price, dollars, because they fill in. It's crazy, because I don't know about you, but like if I'm in a locker room and I'm the linebacker making $2 million and I got this other guy making $50 million, I'm like, what the fuck's going on here, man? We're both in the trenches. It's amazing that the NFL has created this have and have not, because it really is. You got 5 or 6 guys making 60, 50, 50, 40, 30, and then you got a bunch of about 45 other guys making $2 million and less, or $3 million and less. It's crazy how they're dynamics and they're able to still be one. That there's not a lot of jealousy and animosity. Maybe there is. I just don't see it. But it's crazy. But anyway, I couldn't agree more. And we're going to talk about a lot of draft stuff. So we'll be bringing in some draft experts. Kelly is the expert with Texas Tech. So we got Texas Tech covered. And probably, maybe the Big 12 too and all that. I got the AC. I got McCain. So any Canes, we got that shit covered. But we'll bring in some other people to fill in the gaps for us. I mean, if Kelly and I were the GMs we'd have a lot of Canes and Texas Tech on this team, but that's just our bias. That's why we're not GMs.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, but anyway, just my final thoughts. We'll wrap it up because it's getting late, and just honestly, it's end of the year in 2024. So thankful for so many different things, but obviously thankful for the friendship that we've been able to create, Kelly. I think it's so cool that we just meet because the Cowboys. We don't see each other but a couple times a year. We text each other and all that kind of stuff. But you've been a great friend. You're someone that I've obviously enjoy hanging out with, spending some time with. Hopefully we got some road games in the future. We got some more games next year. I only went to 4 games this year. I can't believe it. I only went to 4 games this year, road and home. So it's kind of crazy, but definitely thankful for that. And really everyone in Cowboys Nation, for me to do a cameo for Luke, and you saw the picture, and then I bump into him and his dad at Texas Live and was able to take a picture with him and talk to him. And it was just really cool. Obviously, Kimmy goes without saying. I mean, and really cuts his family. I mean, to meet his family and just has what a great family. His daughters, all of them, so sweet, so welcoming, outgoing, talking. I mean, we had a group with me and just like family. And I think that's the one thing a lot of people don't understand, the bond that Cowboys Nation has. It's bigger than just, all right, the Cowboys. That's why I say, man, I can never quit the Cowboys, because if I quit the Cowboys, I'm not seeing Kelly no more. I'm not seeing Cuts. I'm not seeing all these guys that I love so much. So definitely thankful for that. And I'll let you have the final word. But thank you, everyone, for a great 24, and we're going to have a much better 25.
Yeah, I gotta kind of piggyback off that, obviously, because it's all the people that we've been able to meet, continue to build this, build this platform and continue to build up the Cowboys Cave, and and then all the characters that we've met through Cowboys Nation, including SoCal. Yes,
yeah, he is.
But the tailgate, the tailgate was fun to be able to finally meet Jimmy Dee. Camo Piper. I mean, even though he's a Niners fan, I mean, that was a cool dude, man. I mean, the collection of characters we had at that tailgate, and the little the night before holding the spot down when we did the live. That's still fun. I think I've watched it a couple of times. I think I've told you, sometimes I just throw it on at work and I'll just watch it in the background, and it was such a fun night, man, and a great memory, because it just, that like you said, that's the things that just, continue to grow these relationships and friendships that that I'll have for a lifetime. That it all just, it wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for the Cowboys. So and even if the Cowboys have a down year, when they have a down year like they did this year, we're Cowboys fans. I mean, we've been through the ringer. We've seen bad seasons. We've seen good seasons. It doesn't, that's the thing about being a fan. You're not a fan because your team wins all the time. I mean, that's not how it works. As a fan, you better be prepared. If you're going to be a loyal fan, be prepared to go through some bad seasons. Be prepared to go through some bad times. But it's all about, getting through it together with the fans. And I think we've got the greatest fans in the entire world. Not just in the United States, but in the entire world, man. Cowboys Nation is worldwide. We've met Frankie from Germany. I mean, we got guys, international guys that are coming down, from across the pond. So it's awesome to be able to build that and to continue to do this. And again, I love everybody that I've been able to meet, all these great people. Obviously you, man, what we've been able to do on this show and continue to do, man, the opportunities that have been afforded to me for being a part of this. And, obviously thank you for giving me the opportunity to come in with this Cowboys Cave thing. We've kind of, like you said, always been connected. It was when you were one of the first accounts that I was kind of like, hey, I like what this guy does right here, and then you kind of started kind of retweeting a couple of mines, retweeting, and then we just kind of formed that relationship, and it's obviously it's grown from there, man. So I consider you like family, as I do, many other guys that we've grown very close to. So thank you, everybody, for all you've done in 2024. Hope you all have a happy new year, safe new year. Get back to the Cowboys Cave in 2025 and help us continue to grow this thing. And like Mike said, hopefully 2025 is a whole lot better of a year for us Cowboys fans. If we can get back to winning some damn football and, being a team that's a little bit more respected around the NFL than what we've been this year.
We're going to do it, man. We definitely appreciate it. Guys, be safe. New Year's Eve. Be smart. Be safe. We love you, and we'll be talking to you next week. Take care. See you.
Give me somebody that's hungry. Give me somebody that's hungry. I need somebody.